Hi everyone. In today's tutorial, we're just going to have a quick review of HTML and CSS. We're also just going to do a quick review of how Webkit transitions and transforms work. That can take a little bit of getting used to. And we're also going to have a very quick introduction to something called jQuery, which is quite similar to these transitions and transforms. It's just more powerful, and it will allow you to add more interactivity with your web pages. Okay, so there's lots to play with here, and this video is only going to give you a very brief taste of what you can do with these things. Before we just get into Notepad++ and coding, I'm just going to show you my web page design. This is going to be the layout that I'm working with. I'm going to have a big red box here, which is the container of everything in my web page. So it's just a div, and I'm going to give it an ID of container. I'm just going to set the styles to be margin auto and width 900. And that will just help me to center this big container div in my web page, in the web browser, sorry. I'm also going to have a navbar div, which is this yellow one. And inside the navbar div, there's just going to be 3 list items in an unordered list. And I'll style those to look like navigation buttons. I'm also going to have 2 content areas. I'm going to have this content area on the left, and I'm going to have this content area on the right. And at the bottom of my web page, there will be a footer. Okay, so this is the design layout of the web page I'm going to be making. So let's jump into Notepad++ and see how all that looks. Of course, I start with my doctype HTML tag. This is really to let web browsers know that I'm going to be using the latest version of HTML. I've also got my HTML tags there. And inside my HTML tags, I've got a head section and a body section. In the head section, I've got my meta tag, my title tag, and I've also got a style section as well inside the head. And at the moment, my style section is empty. Okay, we'll work on that in this tutorial. Okay, so we're just going to come out of the head, and we're going to have a look at the body. So my body has that big div that I was talking about here, this big red one. This is the container div. And inside the container div, there is a nav, a left, a right, and a footer. So let's have a look at that. There's a nav with 3 list items, a left, a right, and a footer. And this is helping me to create the layout of my web page. Of course, I'm going to have to start styling this stuff, so let's start now. Back to the head section, back into style, and I'm just going to quickly style my container div. And I'm just going to say margin auto width, let's just give it 900 pixels. We can change any of this later. I'm also going to give it a border of just 1 pixel, black and solid. And I'll also, just to show you what's going on, I am going to give it a height. But height is not the most important property of a div. Width is more important. I don't know how obvious that is, but we often find ourselves going up and down web pages. We scroll up and down, so who knows what the height is going to be. Width, however, we very rarely find ourselves scrolling left and right on a web page. That's quite unusual, so we do try to control the width of web pages. So let's just save that, and we'll launch this in Google Chrome and see what it looks like. So there's my big container div. It's got a black border, and here's my navbar section, and it's got a list item of 3 items. My unordered list has a list style type here, which is a black circle, and my list items are on top of each other, whereas really I want them to be floating next to each other. So let's just deal with that right now. My unordered list has a list style type which is actually none. I don't want to see it. And my list items, I've got 3 of them at the moment, are going to be floating next to each other. And I'll give each of them a width of 100 pixels and a height of 25 pixels. And let's just stick in a background color as well so we can see what's going on. I'm going to go for my favorite, F0, 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 which is some kind of gray. We'll save it and we'll refresh my page. Brilliant. Okay, so we're now getting something that looks like a navigation bar. And just going to give it a bit of a margin to separate them a little bit, just 10 pixels. And we'll text align things so that anything in the list is in the center of the list item. And just to see what that looks like, there's the margin, and now the text is in the center of that 100 pixel wide area. Brilliant. So what we're going to do now, we're going to say for list items, we're going to give it a little bit of Webkit magic. So we're going to set up a Webkit transition. And I'm just going to do several transitions in one line of code. One transition that I'm going to work on is a height transition. And any height transition is going to take 2 seconds. I'm also going to set up a width transition. And any width transition is also going to take 2 seconds. I'm also going to set up a Webkit transform. And any Webkit transforms that take place are also going to take 2 seconds. So if I do any transition stuff on list items, this is going to control how the transitions happen. So let's have a look at a typical transition, which is when we hover over something with our mouse. So on the list items, when we hover, I'm going to force a few transitions to happen. The first transition is going to be the height. At the moment, it's 25 pixels, but I'm going to change that to be 40 pixels. I'm also going to mess around with the width. At the moment, it's 100 pixels. I'm going to change that. When we hover, the width is going to be 125 pixels. And when we hover, we're going to have a little bit of a Webkit transform working. Whoops. Webkit transform is going to be a rotate transform of 10 degrees. So when we hover, we've got 3 transition things that are happening. A change in height, a change in width, and a change in the angle of the list item. And each transition is going to take 2 seconds. So let's just refresh my page, and we'll have a look at that. There you go. Hey. Oh, it's all very slow, isn't it? My goodness. Anyway, it is what it is. And that's how you can set up Webkit transitions. Right then, now we're going to move on to a bit of jQuery. Now, for jQuery to work, you need access to jQuery libraries. And this is how I find the jQuery library. Let me just show you this. Okay. I search for Google APIs jQuery. This is what I'm looking for. And I try to find a link which will show me internet hosted libraries. So I don't have to download anything into my site. I just trust that the libraries are online and I can access them when I need them. And I'm looking for jQuery. There we go. We've got 2 here. Here's a library file, and I think these must be version numbers. I imagine this is the latest version number. So I'm just going to copy this. And I'm going to paste it into the head section. There's the head section of my web page. I'm just going to stick it after title. Now, I've been messing around with this for a long time, and let me tell you that I need to do this to get it to work properly. I need to add the HTTP colon to that. If you don't have that, I would add it, and it will save you a bit of grief later. Also, to run jQuery code, the smart guys who developed all this said, listen, you don't want to run any of your jQuery code in your web page until the web page has loaded properly into your web browser. When it's loaded properly, then you can start playing with jQuery. So they suggest in the head section of your web page, you create a script section. Create a new script section, and inside that script section, you're going to create a little bit of code which tells the web browser, don't run any jQuery until the document has loaded properly, until the document is ready. And that's what this little bit of code here does. Right. This is called the document ready function. Okay, and inside this function is where I'm going to put all of my jQuery code. Okay, don't worry if you don't remember the syntax to this, you'll find it on the internet. Just do a search for the document ready jQuery function and you'll find the syntax for that. Right then, what I'm going to do is, just to see if jQuery is working, whenever I click on a list item, that list item is going to disappear. Now that sounds a bit weird, but I just want to test if jQuery is working. When I click on a list item, it will disappear. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set up another little function, which looks a bit like this. It's called the click function. Okay, so I'm going to set up a click function for list items. And when I click on a list item, this thing that I clicked, the list item I'm talking about, yeah, this thing that I clicked is going to hide. Now there's a magical little bit of jQuery code. Okay, when I click on list items, this thing that I clicked will hide. That's how that works. And this code will only be allowed to run after my web page has loaded properly into the web browser window. So let's save that and see if it works. Here we go. Now then, hopefully my transitions are still working. Yes, they are. Now what happens when I click on a list item? It disappears. It disappears. Oh no, all of my list items have disappeared. So really the next step for you guys who are studying some of this stuff is to set up, get access to a jQuery library. Okay, there's a good one. Set up your document ready function. Okay, that's what your document ready function should look like. It just looks like that from here to here. And inside your document ready function, you can start playing with jQuery. And there's loads of resources out there on the internet to help you do that. Okay? And we will continue in the next tutorial. Thanks for watching.